The night Manhattan glittered like a polished jewel was the same night Claire Whitmore realized the truth. She was married to a man who believed she would never leave. From the 38th floor of their glass-walled apartment overlooking Central Park, she stood barefoot on the cold marble, her hand resting on her 7-month belly, listening to Ethan's laughter echo through the hallway as he walked in from another late meeting. He didn't know she had heard everything. He didn't know she had seen everything. Just hours earlier, Claire had opened his MacBook to check a prenatal appointment reminder. Instead, an image filled the screen. Lila Anderson, draped across hotel sheets at the Ritz-Carlton, wearing Ethan's Cartier watch. Her smirk was unmistakable. Her message even more damning. "She'll fade out soon, just a little longer." For a moment, Claire couldn't breathe. The city lights blurred. Her fingers trembled. But the silence inside her felt louder than any scream she could have made. She had lost so much already. Her parents, her stability, her confidence. But tonight, something in her shifted. Something awakened. When Ethan entered the apartment, smelling faintly of Dior Sauvage and champagne, he didn't even look at her belly. He walked right past her, humming under his breath. Safe. Smug. Certain. "Did you eat?" he asked casually, loosening his tie. She didn't answer. Instead, she quietly studied the man who had once held her through storms, now reduced to a stranger rehearsing a script. Ethan glanced at his iPhone, smiling at an incoming message he thought she didn't notice. He didn't see the packed bag hidden in the coat closet. He didn't see the documents she had gathered. He didn't see the fire returning to her eyes. "Claire, you're quiet," he muttered, pouring himself a drink. "You okay?" She nodded softly, her voice barely a breath. "Just tired?" He accepted it. Of course he did. Men like Ethan always believed their lies were too sophisticated, their women too fragile, their world too secure to ever come crashing down. But while Ethan lifted his glass to his lips, savoring the illusion of control, Claire stepped into the shadowed hallway, her heart pounding. Not with fear, but with clarity. Tonight would be the last night she lived as his possession. Tomorrow, the world he built on deceit would begin to crumble, and it would start with one silent move. She was about to disappear, but not before leaving something behind that would ruin him forever. The morning after Ethan walked into their apartment smelling like another woman's perfume, Claire felt the world tilt in a way she couldn't ignore anymore. The winter sun leaked through the tall windows of their living room, casting long shadows across the hardwood floor. Shadows that seemed to stretch toward her like reminders of everything she'd been refusing to see. Her back ached from another sleepless night. Pregnancy had made her body heavier, slower, but her mind had never been sharper. She watched Ethan at the kitchen counter, casually sipping coffee from the navy mug she bought him on their first anniversary, a time when she believed forever existed. He didn't look at her once. Not when he stirred the sugar, not when he checked the time on his Cartier watch, not even when she winced from a sharp cramp tightening beneath her ribs. "Long day today," he muttered, eyes glued to his iPhone. "Don't wait up." This was the 6th long day in 8 days. Claire didn't ask questions anymore. She already knew the answers. Still, something inside her wanted to understand the full extent of his lies before she walked away. She needed clarity, proof, closure, and maybe even justice. When Ethan stepped into the elevator, Claire whispered a goodbye he didn't hear. Then she reached for the MacBook sitting on the marble kitchen island. Her hands trembled, not with fear, but with a calm determination. She typed his password, a combination she had memorized the day he proposed. The screen unlocked instantly. Emails, receipts, reservations, pictures she couldn't unsee. But there was something worse, something she wasn't prepared for. A draft of a legal document Ethan had been working on with a private attorney. a petition for sole custody of their unborn child. Her breath stilled, her vision blurred, and for a moment, Claire thought her knees might give out entirely. He wasn't just cheating, he was planning to erase her. The realization sliced deeper than any betrayal could. Because Ethan knew her weaknesses, her lack of family, her fragile job security, her medical risks, and he was using all of it against her. But he didn't know something equally important. Claire wasn't as alone as he thought. Rowan Hale had sent her a message just minutes earlier. "Claire, I think you should see something. Call me when you're safe." Safe. The word echoed in her chest like a warning. What Rowan was about to show her would change everything. Claire sat on the edge of the bed, the laptop still warm against her thighs, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. The winter chill seeped through the cracked window, brushing against her skin like a silent warning. She stared at Rowan's message again, short, urgent, unmistakably serious. She dialed his number with trembling fingers. It rang once, twice. He answered immediately. "Claire, are you alone?" Rowan's voice was low, steady, so different from Ethan's dismissive tone that she felt herself exhale for the first time in hours. "Yes," she whispered. "What's going on?" "I came across something at the hospital," he said carefully. "Something involving Ethan. I didn't want to text it. You need to see it in person." Her stomach tightened. Not the baby this time, but dread. "Rowan, is this about the custody paperwork?" A pause. "You saw it?" "Yes." Another pause. Longer, heavier. "Then you definitely need to see what I found." They agreed to meet at a quiet coffee shop near Fifth Avenue. Claire slipped into her coat, moving slowly, her body heavier than usual. Every step toward the elevator felt like walking toward a truth she wasn't ready for, but couldn't avoid. Inside the cab, she tried to steady her breathing. Manhattan flashed by. Yellow taxis, holiday lights, a couple holding hands under a street lamp. Life outside moved forward effortlessly, unaware that hers was collapsing in real time. When she arrived, Rowan was already there, sitting in a corner booth with his gray coat still on. His expression told her everything before he spoke. He slid a tablet across the table. "Claire, this is from the hospital's internal review." On the screen was a file, signed digitally by Ethan, requesting access to her medical records without her consent. It included notes about her earlier complications, psychological evaluations from 2 years ago, even her family history. All of it was framed to make her look unstable, unfit, emotionally volatile. He was building a case, not just to leave her, but to take her child. Claire's throat tightened. "He planned this long before Lila." Rowan nodded, his gaze softening. "That's why I reached out. You're not safe staying with him, and you're not imagining any of this." A tear slipped down her cheek, not from weakness but from the weight of confirmation. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't paranoid. She had been hunted, quietly, strategically, and Ethan believed she'd never find out. But Claire wiped her tears, steadying herself. "He thinks he's still in control," she said softly, "but he has no idea what's coming." She didn't know it yet, but the next piece of evidence would shatter everything. Claire arrived back at the apartment just after sunset, the Manhattan skyline glowing like a crown of fire beyond the windows. Her mind was spinning. Rowan's evidence, Ethan's custody plan, the betrayal layered so deeply it felt like she was drowning in it. But she needed to see how far Ethan was willing to take the performance. She needed to know what kind of man she was escaping. When the door opened, Ethan stepped inside wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, his tie loosened like he had just survived a grueling boardroom battle. Claire almost laughed. She knew he had spent the afternoon at the Ritz-Carlton, not a conference room. "Hey," he said, forcing a warm smile as he placed his Mont Blanc pen on the counter. You look tired. Long day? She nodded quietly, studying him. Watching him lie so effortlessly felt surreal now that she knew the full truth. Every gesture was a practiced script. Every sigh, every half-smile was designed to keep her contained. He opened the fridge, grabbing a bottle of sparkling water. I booked us a dinner at that place you like on Park Avenue. Thought it'd be nice to spend time together. This was new. This was strategy. He needed her calm. He needed her unaware. He needed her pliable until the custody plan was official. Her hands instinctively slid over her belly as she felt the baby shift. Ethan barely noticed. "What's wrong?" he asked gently, stepping closer. "You've been distant." "Is it hormones?" The word hit her like a slap. Dismissive, convenient, well-rehearsed. She had heard him use it so many times that she wondered if he practiced it in the mirror. "Everything's fine," she whispered. He cupped her cheek, and for a moment she saw the ghost of the man she once loved. But his eyes gave him away, calculating, impatient, already somewhere else. "You know I love you," he murmured, brushing a thumb along her jaw. "We're just stressed. Once things settle down at work, everything will go back to normal." Normal. As if she hadn't seen the hotel photos. As if she hadn't seen the legal petition. As if he hadn't already erased her in his mind. She stepped back and his smile faltered. "Claire?" "Just tired," she repeated. Ethan exhaled, relieved. "Good. Because we have a big day tomorrow. Important meetings. I need you looking steady." Looking steady. Not being steady. As Ethan walked away, humming softly, Claire glanced at the hallway closet, the place where her packed bag was hidden under a blanket. "Tomorrow," he said. But he had no idea tomorrow belonged to her. And tonight would deliver the blow he never saw coming. Claire could barely sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ethan's petition for sole custody, the cold legal language slicing through her like glass. At dawn, she slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to wake him. Snow had started falling over Manhattan, dusting the skyline with a fragile calm that didn't match the storm inside her. Her phone buzzed just as she stepped into the living room. A message from Rowan. "I found something else. You need to see this today." Her pulse tightened. Rowan had already shown her enough to break a person, yet somehow there was more. Something darker, something Ethan had buried deeper than the rest. They met inside a quiet medical office Rowan used for administrative work. He locked the door behind her, his expression more serious than she had ever seen. "Claire, sit down," he said gently. She did, bracing herself. Rowan opened a folder, one marked confidential. Ethan had submitted a second set of documents to a private clinic uptown. Documents claiming Claire was showing signs of prenatal instability, recommending mandatory supervised care after birth. Mandatory care. Supervision. Stripping her rights as a mother before she even held her child. Claire's chest tightened. "He wants to institutionalize me?" Rowan nodded slowly. "If these were approved, he could argue you're unfit. Permanently." The room spun. She grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself, her breath coming sharp and uneven. "He had this ready months ago," Rowan added. "Before Lila. Before the affair even mattered." Claire closed her eyes, fighting tears, not from weakness, but from the weight of finally understanding Ethan's full intention. He hadn't just betrayed her. He had planned her removal. And yet, Rowan wasn't finished. "There's more," he said quietly. "I checked the timestamps on these requests. Ethan filed them the day after your first fainting episode. Instead of getting you help, he weaponized it." A tremor rippled through her. She remembered that day vividly. Ethan brushing her off, claiming she was overreacting, making her feel dramatic. All while, he documented it as evidence. Rowan leaned closer. Claire, you can't stay in that apartment anymore, not tonight. He's building a case and you're giving him access to everything he needs by living with him. She swallowed hard. Where would I even go? His answer was immediate. I'll help you. I owe your parents more than you know, and I'm not letting him destroy you. For the first time in months, Claire felt something small and steady rise inside her. Hope. And with Rowan's next revelation, that hope would ignite into something far more dangerous. Claire returned to the apartment with Rowan's folder pressed tightly against her chest, as if the papers inside were burning through her coat. The city below shimmered with the early evening glow, but nothing felt beautiful anymore. Everything felt like a countdown, a quiet ticking toward disaster. Inside, the apartment was dim, lit only by the soft golden lamps Ethan preferred because they made the home look warmer on video calls. Claire wondered if he ever noticed the chill between them, the silence stretching like a crack in glass. She had barely stepped inside when Ethan appeared from the hallway, wearing a crisp shirt and an expression rehearsed to look concerned. "There you are," he said, approaching. "You didn't answer my texts." "I was out," she replied, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Out?" His eyes sharpened. "With who?" The question hit her harder than it should have. Not because he had the right to ask. It was the arrogance in his tone, the entitlement of a man who believed he owned her time, her movements, her entire life. "Ethan," she replied calmly, "I don't owe you an itinerary." His jaw tightened. "You do when you're carrying my child." And there it was, the line that sliced straight into the center of her chest. The reminder that he didn't see the pregnancy as theirs. He saw it as leverage. She stepped back, but Ethan followed, lowering his voice into the gentle, manipulative tone he used when he wanted control without appearing cruel. "Claire, you've been emotional lately, forgetful, unstable. I think we should call Dr. Barrett and discuss some supervision after the birth, just to keep you safe." Supervision. The exact word Rowan warned her about. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "I don't need supervision." Ethan exhaled dramatically, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You don't see it, but you're slipping. I'm trying to help you. And if you don't want to help yourself, then—" He stopped only because she stepped away. For the first time, Claire looked him directly in the eyes, not with fear, not with confusion, but with clarity sharp enough to wound. "You're not helping me," she said softly. "You're preparing to replace me." Something flickered in his expression, something dark and unmistakably real. His mask slipped just long enough for her to see the man beneath the performance, the man who wanted absolute control. Then he smiled. Slow. Cold. "You should get some rest," he murmured. "Tomorrow's going to be important." Important. A threat disguised as advice. Claire walked past him without another word, her legs trembling as she shut the bedroom door behind her. She finally understood. This wasn't a marriage, it was a trap, and tonight she would start breaking out. Dinner that night felt like a staged scene in a play Claire never agreed to perform in. Ethan insisted they go out, claiming it would help her mood, and booked a table at a high-end restaurant overlooking Park Avenue, one they used to visit when things were real between them. When love was simple, warm, and uncorrupted. Now everything tasted metallic, like the world had turned cold. As they were seated, Ethan rested his phone on the white tablecloth, screen facing down. A small detail, but one she noted carefully. He only did that when he expected messages he didn't want her to see. Messages from Lila. He ordered for both of them without asking. Claire will have the roasted chicken, something gentle for her stomach. Gentle. As if she were fragile, incapable, untrustworthy. She forced a small smile, playing her part for one final night. The mask she wore was thin, but Ethan never noticed. Men like him rarely did. They were too consumed with their own reflections. So, he began casually, sipping his wine. Tomorrow I'm meeting with legal about restructuring our finances. Just precautionary. With the baby coming, it's smart to organize things. Organize. Reword. Erase. Claire nodded, her fingers gripping the edge of her napkin. That sounds responsible. He smiled, pleased by her compliance. Exactly. And it'll help protect both of us. But Claire already knew what he meant. She had seen the drafts, the custody petition, the request for supervised care, the quiet preparations for a future where she didn't exist. And you seem calmer today, he added, studying her closely. Stable. Stable. The word burned through her like acid. I'm trying, she murmured, and Ethan reached across the table, patting her hand the way a handler might soothe a nervous animal. He had no idea she had already packed her essentials. He had no idea Rowan was waiting for her signal. He had no idea she had copied every document he thought he'd buried. Ethan leaned back, satisfied. See? We're getting back to normal. Normal. She almost laughed. There would never be normal again. Halfway through dinner, his phone buzzed once, then twice. Distinct vibrations he immediately recognized. His hand twitched toward the device, but he stopped himself, offering Claire a too sweet smile instead. He was itching to read whatever Lila had sent. The urge to check it grew. She could see it in the way his leg bounced slightly, in the way his jaw clenched. Then, unable to resist, he finally picked up the phone. One glance at the screen, and his entire expression changed. Confusion, panic, fear. Claire watched quietly, because the message he just read wasn't from Lila, it was from Rowan. Ethan froze in the middle of the restaurant, the soft clinking of silverware fading beneath the storm gathering behind his eyes. Claire watched him carefully, her pulse steady, her face calm. She knew exactly what he was reading, because Rowan had warned her he was going to send it. The message glowing on Ethan's screen read, "We need to talk. I know everything you've been hiding from Claire. Call me before this gets worse. RH." Ethan's fingers tightened around the phone until his knuckles turned white. For a man who thrived on control, even the smallest crack could feel like an avalanche, and this message wasn't small. It was a direct threat, a reminder that someone out there could take his entire world apart. "Everything okay?" Claire asked softly, her voice the perfect mask of innocence. Ethan forced a smile so stiff it barely moved his lips. "Just work." But she saw panic flicker in his eyes, the same panic she saw the first time she noticed he was lying. He excused himself from the table, muttering something about needing to make a call, and hurried toward the back hallway near the restrooms. Claire watched him disappear, her heart thudding with a mixture of fear and empowerment. This was the beginning, the shift in dynamic, the moment Ethan realized he wasn't untouchable. She could almost feel the trap tightening. Minutes passed before Ethan returned, his expression rearranged into what he must have believed was composure, but Claire noticed the tension in his shoulders, the unnaturally rigid posture, the faint tremor in his hand as he lifted his glass. "Everything sorted?" she asked. Ethan nodded, though his voice cracked. "Yes, nothing serious." A lie. A sloppy one. He tried to regain control, reaching across the table again. "Let's focus on us tonight. We need to stay united, especially with the baby coming." United. He really thought he could patch over months of calculated betrayal with a single evening of forced affection. Claire leaned back, studying him the way a surgeon examines an incision, precise, detached, already knowing what lies beneath. In that moment, she realized something. Ethan wasn't afraid of losing her. He was terrified of losing his image. Because if Rowan knew the truth, the board could know. The investors could know. The world could know. Ethan lifted his napkin, wiping his mouth, trying to appear composed. But when his phone buzzed again, he flinched, hard. Claire didn't move, didn't blink, because she knew this time. The message wouldn't be a warning. It would be the beginning of Ethan's unraveling. Ethan barely touched his food after the second message arrived. His eyes kept darting between the glowing screen and Claire's calm expression, as though he were trying to decode whether she knew something, anything about what was unfolding. She kept her breathing steady, her hands resting gently on her belly, the image of a serene wife enjoying dinner. But inside, she was sharper than she had ever been. When the check arrived, Ethan grabbed it quickly, tossing his card down with an impatience that drew a glance from the waiter. He stood abruptly. "Let's go, it's late." Late, as if he suddenly cared about her rest. Outside, the city hummed with nighttime energy, traffic lights reflecting off wet pavement, cabs honking in the cold air. Ethan placed a hand on Claire's back, guiding her toward the waiting Mercedes, a gesture that once felt protective, but now felt like control disguised as courtesy. But as he opened the car door, something unexpected happened. A hotel attendant rushed out from the Langford Hotel next to the restaurant, holding a small black envelope. "Mr. McAllister?" the man called out. Ethan stiffened. "Yes?" "This was dropped off for you earlier. The messenger said it was urgent." Urgent. Claire's pulse jumped. Ethan snatched the envelope, eyes narrowing as he tore it open. Inside was a single printed photo, grainy but unmistakable. Ethan, Lila, the Ritz-Carlton hallway, his hand on her waist, her lips brushing his cheek, time-stamped, dated. Incontrovertible. And beneath the photo was a note. "Lies don't stay buried in luxury hotels. More coming." No signature, no initials, just a threat. Claire watched the blood drain from his face. His hand shook as he folded the photo back into the envelope, shoving it deep into his coat as if proximity alone could make it disappear. "Get in the car!" he snapped at Claire, the edge in his voice betraying his unraveling calm. She slid into the back seat, her silence deliberate. Ethan slammed the door and stalked around to the driver's side. He didn't speak for the entire ride, gripping the wheel so tightly the leather groaned. Claire rested her hand over her stomach, feeling the faint flutter of her baby, steady, alive, a reminder of what she was fighting for. When they reached the apartment, Ethan finally broke the silence. "Someone is trying to destroy me," he muttered. "Someone's setting me up." Claire looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Are they?" she asked softly. The question hit him harder than any accusation, because for the first time, Ethan realized Claire wasn't scared anymore. She was watching him fall. Ethan barely slept. Claire could hear him pacing through the apartment long after midnight, the soft thud of his footsteps echoing against the marble floors like a man being hunted by his own secrets. Every so often he would stop abruptly, and she imagined him staring out at the Manhattan skyline, trying to piece together how everything was slipping from his grasp. By morning, the mask he'd worn so confidently for years was gone. He stormed into the kitchen while Claire was making tea, his eyes bloodshot, his jaw tight. "If someone is targeting me, they're targeting us," he snapped. "You need to tell me if you've talked to anyone. Your co-workers, friends, that doctor." She slowly stirred her tea. "Rowan's a cardiologist, not an investigator." Ethan flinched at the name. He tried to hide it, but Claire caught the twitch. "Claire," he continued, voice cracking, "this isn't a joke. Someone is threatening to ruin me. My career, my reputation, everything I've built. They're sending pictures, making accusations." "Accusations?" she repeated, arching an eyebrow. "Or evidence?" His face hardened. "What is that supposed to mean?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The ambiguity alone rattled him. He grabbed his coat. "I have to go to the office, crisis meeting." His hand shook as he reached for his keys. "Don't leave the apartment today. I need you here. Safe. Safe. The word landed differently now. It wasn't concern. It was containment. He opened the door, then froze. A small package sat neatly on the floor, wrapped in plain brown paper. Ethan snatched it up, tearing it open with frantic hands. Inside was a USB drive and a single typed message. You can't bury what already has witnesses. The color drained from his face. Claire watched from across the room, holding her mug with steady hands, her heartbeat calm for the first time in weeks. Ethan looked at her then, really looked, as though searching for answers he no longer felt entitled to demand. "Do you know anything about this?" he asked, voice trembling. She met his gaze evenly. "Should I?" It was the uncertainty that broke him. Ethan left without another word, slamming the door so hard the picture frame above the console rattled. Claire exhaled slowly, placing a hand over her belly. Rowan had sent another message to her phone. "Step 1 worked. He's unraveling faster than expected. Be ready." Ready. Claire looked at the hallway closet where her escape bag waited. Tonight, everything would change. While Ethan spiraled at the office, Lila Anderson sat in her sleek PR workspace, pretending everything was fine. But the truth was written all over her trembling hands. Someone had leaked the Ritz-Carlton photo. Someone had exposed what she thought was a perfectly hidden affair. And worse, Ethan wasn't answering her calls. She dialed him again. Voicemail. She cursed under her breath. This wasn't how their arrangement was supposed to go. She was meant to rise with Ethan, not drown in his scandal. He had promised her connections, power, the chance to step into the spotlight, not get dragged through the mud while he played victim. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "You should reconsider who you're protecting. He won't protect you." Lila's blood ran cold. She scanned the office, paranoid someone was watching. She slipped into an empty conference room and locked the door. Her reflection in the glass looked sharper, more frightened than she wanted to admit. She dialed Ethan again. Finally, he picked up. "What?" he hissed. "Don't what me?" she snapped. "Someone is sending things, photos, messages. This is blowing up. You said this was safe." "Calm down," Ethan barked. "I'm handling it." "Handling it?" Lila laughed bitterly. "You can't even control your own wife." There was a pause, too long to ignore. "Ethan," she whispered, "did Claire find out?" Silence. Then a quiet, furious exhale. "I don't know," he muttered, "but someone is working against me. Maybe someone at the hospital. Maybe someone in the company. Maybe you underestimated her," Lila said softly. That struck him hard. She heard it in the sudden hitch in his breath. Ethan lowered his voice. "Lila, we need to distance ourselves for now. If this comes out, I need to look clean." Her mouth fell open. "You're cutting me loose?" "This is temporary." No, it wasn't. She heard the finality in his tone. Lila sank into a chair, stunned by how quickly he discarded her. So this was the real Ethan, loyal only when convenient, committed only when the outcome benefited him. And then another message arrived. "He will blame you first." Her heart pounded. Someone knew her weaknesses. Someone was orchestrating this. Someone who wanted Ethan destroyed and knew exactly how to push her. For the first time, Lila realized she wasn't just caught in Ethan's downfall. She was becoming a weapon in someone else's plan. By the time Ethan arrived at the office, the tension inside the McAllister Innovations headquarters was so thick it felt like stepping into a pressure chamber. People spoke in hushed tones. Conversations died the moment he passed. Colleagues glanced at him with the mix of curiosity and caution reserved for a man walking toward a storm he didn't yet understand. His assistant, Mia, approached carefully. "Sir, the board called an emergency meeting at noon. They said you should bring all financial files connected to Project Helios." Project Helios, the one he manipulated to cover the costs of his secret trips. The one Claire unknowingly helped manage, the one Rowan warned her about. Ethan's throat tightened. Who initiated the meeting? Mia hesitated, then lowered her voice. Mr. Hale? Rowan. The name hit him like a blow to the chest. He forced a dismissive smile. I'm sure it's a misunderstanding. But even Mia didn't look convinced. Inside his office, Ethan shut the door, breathing heavily as he tore open the brown package again. The USB, the message, the threat. His reflection in the glass window looked distorted, stretched by panic. He plugged the USB into his computer. A folder opened instantly, labeled Helios Discrepancies. Dozens of files popped up. Exported spreadsheets, transfer logs, security footage from office cameras, copies of receipts he thought he'd destroyed, all pointing to financial misconduct, all pointing to him. Then, at the bottom of the folder, one more file, a screenshot of his petition for sole custody. Ethan staggered back, heart pounding. Someone wanted to ruin him professionally and personally. But how had they gotten everything? His documents were locked, password protected, secured, unless... He froze. Claire. She had access. She worked with the financial systems. She had reason. A tremor ran down his spine. He grabbed his phone and called her. No answer. He called again, straight to voicemail. He swore under his breath. Just then, another message appeared on his screen. If the board sees these files, your career ends today. Noon, clock's ticking. No signature, just the countdown he could feel closing around his throat. Ethan slammed his laptop shut and stormed out of his office. He needed to find Claire. He needed leverage. He needed to stop this. But as he raced toward the elevator, people stepped aside, not out of respect, but out of anticipation. They could smell it. Ethan McAllister was about to fall. Lila spent most of the morning pacing inside her high-rise apartment, the floor-to-ceiling windows reflecting a woman whose confidence was beginning to fracture. She had always believed she could control the narrative. She was good at playing angles, good at reading people. But now the narrative was turning on her, and every vibration from her phone felt like a warning shot. At 10:07 a.m., another message arrived. He will sacrifice you before he sacrifices himself. No sender. Same style. Same threat. She threw her phone onto the couch, panic climbing up her throat. She knew Ethan was spiraling. She could hear it in his voice, feel it in his sudden coldness. Last night he had told her to lay low, which really meant don't make this harder for me. And then this morning, when she texted him again, he didn't reply at all. So she decided to take action herself. She dressed quickly and took a ride share straight to the McAllister Innovations building, walking through the glass revolving doors like a woman on a mission. She was stopped at once by security. Miss Anderson, you're not authorized to enter today. Excuse me, Lila snapped. I have full access. Check the system. The guard checked his tablet, then looked up. Your access was revoked this morning. Her breath halted. Revoked. Without warning. She stepped aside, dialing Ethan again and again. No answer. She texted him rapidly. Did you do this? Why is my access blocked? Call me now. Nothing. The humiliation burned her skin. She backed away from the reception desk and ducked into an alcove near the elevators, grabbing her phone with shaking hands. If Ethan wanted to play this game, she could play harder. She opened a hidden folder on her phone, screenshots, voice memos, hotel bills, and one particularly damning clip Ethan never knew she recorded. Insurance. She never intended to use it. But now? He forced her hand. She emailed the file to an encrypted address someone had sent her earlier that morning with another message. When you're ready to talk, we're ready to listen. The sender never said their name, never said what they wanted. But somehow they had known exactly how to reach her, exactly when to push. And for the first time, Lila wondered if she was being used just as carefully as she had tried to use Ethan. Because right after she hit send, another message arrived. "Good girl. Phase 2 begins." Her heart nearly stopped. Someone wasn't just watching Ethan fall, they were orchestrating it and using her to do it. By noon, the atmosphere inside the McAllister Innovations boardroom was electric, charged with suspicion, ambition, and the unmistakable scent of impending disaster. The long mahogany table gleamed under recessed lighting, surrounded by executives who had built their careers on betting on the right man at the right moment. Today, Ethan was no longer that man. He entered the room with a forced calm, but everyone saw the truth in his rigid shoulders and pale complexion. The board members exchanged glances, whispers flickering like sparks before a wildfire. Rowan Hale stood at the far end of the table, arms crossed. His expression controlled but unyielding. "Let's begin," Rowan said. The CFO's seat, Ethan's seat, felt colder than usual as he sat down. He cleared his throat. "I understand there were concerns raised about Project Helios. Let me be perfectly clear." "Concerns?" interrupted board member Karen Lee, her tone sharp. "These are not concerns, Ethan. These are federal-level discrepancies." A folder slid across the table toward him. Ethan opened it, and his stomach dropped. The same files from the USB, the same spreadsheets, the same transfers, even the manipulated budgets he thought he had buried within layered coding. "How did you get these?" Ethan demanded, voice cracking. Rowan tilted his head slightly. "Truth has a way of resurfacing," another board member chimed in. "There are receipts from the Ritz-Carlton charged to the Helios account. Care to explain why a research project is paying for luxury hotel stays?" Ethan's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "And there's more," Rowan continued. "Unauthorized access to medical records. A petition for sole custody forged using company counsel. Abuse of internal systems for personal gain." The room buzzed with murmurs, disbelief turning into certainty. Ethan felt sweat bead at his temple. He scanned the table, hoping for an ally, but everyone avoided his gaze. He was no longer an asset. He was a liability. "This feels like a coordinated attack," Ethan snapped. "Someone is setting me up, someone who wants my position." Karen leaned forward. "We don't need someone to set you up, Ethan. You did that yourself." Rowan slid one last document across the table. A sealed envelope. "This," Rowan said, "was delivered to the board anonymously this morning. It includes a video, one that confirms your misuse of funds and your involvement with an employee." Ethan's breath stopped. The video, Lila's recording, everything tightened around him like a noose. "You can't do this," he whispered. "It's already done," Rowan replied. And with a single vote, Ethan's empire began to crumble. Claire sat on the edge of Rowan's small consultation room, her fingers curled tightly around the armrests as she waited for the latest test results. The events of the past 24 hours, Ethan's unraveling, the board meeting, Lila's betrayal, were beginning to weigh on her body. Her breath felt shorter, her pulse faster. Stress and pregnancy were a dangerous combination, and she knew it, but Rowan knew it even more. When he entered the room, he didn't carry the stiff politeness of a doctor. He carried urgency and concern deeper than professional obligation. "Claire," he said gently, closing the door behind him, "you need to stop being in that apartment immediately. Your blood pressure is rising again, and the stress Ethan is causing is putting you and the baby at risk." Her stomach tightened. "I don't have anywhere else to go. He'll find me if I stay in the city." Rowan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Let me worry about that." She glanced up, confused. "What do you mean?" "I've arranged a temporary safe residence," he said. "A private place uptown, security coded, not under your name or mine. Ethan won't be able to track you. You can stay there until the baby is born, or longer if needed." Claire blinked, overwhelmed. Rowan, I can't ask you to do that. You didn't, he replied softly. Your parents once helped me when I had nobody. I promised myself that if the opportunity ever came, I'd repay it. And now, this is the moment. Her breath caught in her throat. She remembered stories her father told about a shy young Rowan who used to come by the house for Sunday dinners. She hadn't realized how deeply that kindness had rooted itself in him. Rowan continued, I've also spoken with an attorney who specializes in protecting mothers. If Ethan tries anything, custody, medical claims, mental health allegations, we'll shut it down before it reaches court. Claire's eyes filled with quiet relief. She didn't know she still had the strength to feel. And, Rowan added carefully, I've arranged for a car to pick you up tonight. We're doing this safely, on your terms. A soft tremor ran through her body, not fear this time, but release, safety, something she hadn't felt in months. You don't have to fight this alone, Rowan said. Not anymore. She placed a hand over her belly, exhaling shakily. For the first time, escaping didn't feel like running away. It felt like stepping toward a life she might finally deserve. But fate wasn't done twisting. Ethan was already searching for her. Claire tried to stay calm as she packed the last few essentials into her overnight bag, her hands trembling with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. Rowan's safe residence was ready. The car would arrive in less than an hour. All she had to do was walk out the door and never look back. But stress had a way of ripping control from her hands when she needed it most. A sudden tightening seized her abdomen, sharp, electric, unrelenting. She grabbed the edge of the dresser, gasping. Another hit seconds later, stronger this time. Her vision flickered. She felt heat flood her face, then drain just as quickly. No, she whispered. Not now. Please, not now. She stumbled toward the couch, lowering herself slowly as her heartbeat grew erratic. Sweat dotted her hairline. She tried the breathing exercises her obstetrician taught her, but the pain didn't ease, it intensified. Her phone buzzed. A message from Rowan. Car will be there in 30. Text me when you're downstairs. She tried to reply, but her fingers couldn't form the words. Another surge of pain ripped through her, forcing a cry from her throat. She leaned forward, one hand pressed to her belly, the other gripping the armrest. The baby kicked, hard, not in distress, but reacting to hers. Her pulse blurred, the room swayed. She tasted copper. Then another message, this one from an unknown number. Ethan knows you're leaving. He's heading home. Her breath stopped entirely. Not now, not when she was vulnerable, not when she could barely stand. She forced herself to reach for the phone again, this time hitting the one contact that mattered. Rowan answered on the first ring. Claire, talk to me. I think something's wrong, she choked out, her voice thin and shaky. The cramps, they're bad. Too bad. I don't think I can wait. Stay exactly where you are, Rowan said, calm but urgent. I'm calling an ambulance. I'm coming right now. No, she whispered, panic trembling through her. If Ethan finds me? Claire, Rowan cut in, firm but gentle. Your life comes first. The baby comes first. I won't let anyone near you, I promise. Her vision dimmed at the edges. A loud pounding suddenly echoed through the apartment door. Hard, insistent, familiar. Claire! Ethan's voice roared from the hallway. Open the door! Her blood ran cold. Rowan's voice yelled through the phone. Claire! Do not open that door! But another contraction hit, violent, blinding, and she realized she might collapse before help arrived. Ethan pounded on the apartment door like a man losing his grip on sanity. Each strike shook the frame, echoing through the living room as Claire struggled to stay conscious. Her breaths came in short, terrified bursts. Sweat dampened her skin. She tried to rise, but her legs buckled beneath her. Claire! Ethan's voice thundered. Open the door now! She couldn't. Even if she wanted to, her body refused to move. The pounding continued, louder, harder, until suddenly it stopped. A moment of silence followed, eerie and suffocating, broken only by Claire's ragged breaths. Then she heard the familiar beep of the keypad. Ethan knew the code. Of course he did. The lock clicked. "No," Claire whispered, her voice barely audible. The door swung open, and Ethan strode into the apartment, panic and fury twisted together on his face. But when he saw her slumped against the couch, his expression changed, not into concern, but calculation. "What's happening to you?" he asked, kneeling beside her, but not touching her. His eyes darted across her body, assessing the situation not as a husband, but as a strategist. "Don't!" Claire gasped. "Stay. Away." He ignored her. "Why didn't you call me? You should have told me if something was wrong with the baby. This could affect—" He stopped himself. Claire heard it anyway. This could affect his case. Another contraction tore through her and she cried out, gripping the couch. Ethan flinched at the sound, glancing nervously at the hallway as if worried who might hear. Then distant sirens wailed outside. Ethan's eyes widened. "Did you call 911? She shook her head weakly. "Rowan, he's coming." Ethan's expression snapped into anger. "That doctor again? He's the one doing this. He's trying to interfere in my family." The sirens grew louder, stopping right outside the building. Footsteps thundered in the hallway. Ethan shot to his feet. "Claire, you listen to me. You say nothing to them. If they think you're unstable—" The door burst open as paramedics rushed inside, Rowan right behind them, his face tight with fear and fury. "Step back." "Ethan," Rowan commanded. "You can't tell me." Rowan cut him off sharply. "You're in no position to give orders. Claire's blood pressure is dangerously high. She needs immediate care." Paramedics lifted Claire onto the stretcher as her vision blurred. Ethan tried to follow, but Rowan blocked him with a force Ethan didn't expect. "She's done being controlled by you," Rowan said coldly. "And soon, the world will know why." For the first time, Ethan looked afraid. And this was only the beginning of his fall. The hospital room was dim, lit only by the soft blue glow of monitors tracking Claire's heartbeat and the baby's. Rowan stood beside her bed, arms crossed, refusing to leave her side. Claire's breathing had steadied, but her body still trembled from the emergency. She clutched the blanket, staring at the door as if Ethan might burst through at any moment. And he did. The door slammed open, hitting the wall hard enough to rattle the IV stand. Ethan strode inside, disheveled, eyes wild, desperation clinging to him like sweat. "I want to see my wife," he demanded. Rowan stepped in front of him immediately. "You need to leave." Ethan barked out a bitter laugh. "Who do you think you are? This is my family, my child." Claire closed her eyes, bile rising in her throat. He didn't say our. He never did. Rowan didn't move. "Your actions put both of them in danger. You don't get access anymore." Ethan shoved him. "Don't play hero, doctor. You're obsessed with her. You think you can replace me?" Rowan didn't react physically. His restraint was sharper than any violence. "Replacing you doesn't require effort, Ethan." "You abandoned her long before I showed up." Ethan's face reddened. "You're poisoning her against me. She's unstable, confused." Claire's voice cut through the room like glass. "Stop talking about me like I'm not here." Both men froze. Claire pushed herself upright, ignoring the pull in her abdomen, her eyes locked onto Ethan's, steady and unflinching. "You tried to take everything from me," she said. "My dignity, my stability, my child." Ethan's expression flickered, panic slipping through his mask. "Claire, you don't understand." "No," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "You don't understand. I know about the custody petition, the medical reports, the financial manipulation. I know everything." He staggered back. "Who told you?" "It doesn't matter." Claire's breathing was shallow but strong. You destroyed whatever was left of us the moment you decided I was expendable. Ethan's desperation sharpened into anger. You think the board will side with you? You think a doctor and a few fake documents will— They're not fake, Rowan interjected, and the board already voted. You've been suspended pending investigation. Ethan blinked. Once. Twice. As though the words didn't register. No, they can't do that. Claire looked at him with a calm he couldn't comprehend. This is your consequence, she whispered. Ethan's chest heaved, fury choking him as security appeared behind him. Sir, one guard said firmly, you need to come with us. Ethan's eyes darted to Claire, pleading, then furious, then defeated. And as he was escorted away, he realized he hadn't just lost control. He had lost everything. The following week unfolded like the slow lifting of a storm. Claire remained under medical supervision, her body still recovering from the brutal spike in blood pressure. But her spirit, shaken for months, was finally stabilizing. Rowan visited daily, checking on her vitals, bringing her warm meals, and talking through every legal step now moving in her favor. For the first time in a long time, she didn't wake up afraid. One afternoon, while snow drifted softly outside the hospital windows, Rowan entered her room holding an envelope. Not threatening like the ones Ethan kept receiving, this one was lined with soft cream paper and sealed with quiet dignity. What's this? Claire asked. Rowan handed it to her. Your parents' attorney reached out. It concerns the trust your father set aside before he passed. You were supposed to receive it after having your first child. Claire blinked, confusion turning slowly into disbelief. I didn't know there was a trust. He never wanted you to feel pressured by money, Rowan said gently, but he always wanted you protected. Inside the envelope were documents outlining a sizable inheritance and a letter from her father, written years ago. For the moment, life tests you. May this help you stand taller, not hide. You deserve peace, Claire. You always have. Her breath shuddered as she pressed the letter to her heart. For so long, she had felt small under Ethan's shadow. But now, her father's words anchored her, lifted her. Over the next few days, the attorney Rowan recommended visited her. Together, they built a legal wall around her and the baby, one Ethan could never penetrate again. Her medical records were corrected. Her rights as a mother were secured. Witness statements were collected. Every lie Ethan had planted was dismantled, piece by piece. And then came the last step. Rowan helped her move into the safe residence, a quiet, sunlit apartment on the Upper East Side. Hardwood floors, warm lighting, a balcony overlooking a peaceful courtyard. It felt nothing like the cold marble world she had lived in with Ethan. When she stood in the center of the living room, Rowan carried her bags inside, setting them gently by the sofa. This place is yours as long as you need it, he said. Claire looked at him, truly looked at him. Steady, warm, unwavering. The kind of man who didn't ask for anything, but offered everything that mattered. Rowan, she whispered. Thank you for giving me a chance to breathe again. He smiled softly. It's not just breathing, Claire. It's beginning. And yet, she didn't know the final blow to Ethan was about to strike publicly, where the whole city would witness his fall. 2 weeks after moving into her new apartment, Claire finally felt steady enough to step outside. The winter air was crisp, carrying the scent of roasted chestnuts from a street vendor nearby. For the first time in months, the world didn't feel threatening. It felt wide, open, possible. That morning, Rowan arrived with the day's newspaper tucked under his arm and a soft, unreadable smile. You might want to sit for this, he said gently. Claire eased onto the couch, one hand resting on her belly. Rowan handed her the paper. The front page headline hit her like a silent thunderclap. CFO Ethan McAllister under federal investigation. Misconduct, fraud, and medical privacy violations exposed. Below the headline was a photo of Ethan being escorted out of the McAllister Innovations building by federal agents, his wrists bound, his expression a cocktail of panic, humiliation, and disbelief. Claire exhaled slowly. Not with shock. She knew this was coming. But with a release deeper than relief. This was closure. This was justice. "This is real?" she whispered. "Very real," Rowan said. "The evidence Lila provided matched the board's findings. The company pressed charges, the hospital filed complaints, and the custody petition? The judge threw it out immediately." Claire's eyes warmed with tears, not of sorrow, but of vindication. "He can't hurt you anymore," Rowan added softly. She looked at him, really looked. The man who had shielded her when she was weakest. The man who stepped into the fire Ethan created without hesitation. The man who saw her not as fragile, but as someone worth fighting for. "Rowan, I don't know how to thank you," she murmured. "You don't need to thank me," he said, kneeling beside her chair. "Just live. Just choose a life that makes you feel safe and valued." She placed her hand over his, steady and sure. "I think I finally can." As the days passed, Claire's strength returned. She decorated the nursery. She walked through Central Park without fear. She learned to laugh again, gently at first, then freely. One quiet evening, Rowan visited after his shift, bringing dinner and a small box tied with a ribbon. "This is for the baby," he said. But when she opened it, her heart stilled. It wasn't a baby gift. It was a delicate silver ring, simple, elegant, meaningful. Rowan hesitated. "Claire, when you're ready, not now, not rushed, I'd like to build a life with you, a real one." Tears filled her eyes, warm and clean. For the first time since her life shattered, she saw a future she wanted, and this time it was a future she chose. So, that's how our story comes to an end. And if you are still here right now, listening to these last words, then something in Claire's journey must have touched your heart in a way you maybe didn't expect. And that matters. It really does. Because her story isn't just about betrayal or revenge, it's about remembering your worth, even when someone else tries to erase it. The Stoics often said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Claire couldn't control Ethan's cruelty, but she could control her response. And slowly, step by step, she chose herself again. That's something all of us can take with us. Life will bring storms, some unfair, some devastating. But healing begins the moment we stop asking, "Why me?" and start whispering, "What now?" If this story made you feel understood, if it reminded you of your own strength, or simply gave you a moment to breathe, then stay with us. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel, not just for the drama, but for the lessons hidden inside every story we tell. And remember, my friend, you deserve peace, you deserve clarity, and you deserve a life that feels like yours again. This story is a work of fiction created for emotional reflection and personal growth. While the events and characters may feel real, they are entirely imagined and not based on any actual individuals or documented situations. The purpose of this content is to explore themes of resilience, self-worth, and healing in a dramatic, narrative style. We aim to inspire reflection, not to portray real events or make claims about real people. Any resemblance to actual persons or situations is purely coincidental. The lessons shared in the story are meant to support viewers in understanding their own experiences, not to provide legal, medical, or psychological advice. Please engage with this content as entertainment and inspiration, and always seek professional guidance when needed. Thank you for watching and supporting our storytelling journey.